All right, hey folks, it's Faz here from Faz Lift. So, stretching. You stretch after a workout, that's it, open and shut case, right? Not so fast. That's what I want to talk about today. Firstly, thanks for making it onto my channel. I do appreciate all the recent love and subscribes and everything that you guys have been sending my way. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. So, and also, if you would like to actually work with me on your physique and strength goals, there is a link in the description. Let's get on with the video. So I think a lot of people get this line that stretching should only be done after the workout, that it interferes with force development, and that's what we should do. But I think that leaves out a few good uses of stretching. So I want to talk about that today. Now, as usual, I've got some notes, and I'm going to start off talking with stretching before a workout. So here we go, before training. This is generally acknowledged as being quite counterproductive for force development. So most people say don't stretch before your training because it'll affect how much weight you can lift. And that's a reasonable thing. Now, there are plenty of studies to show that as well. All I will say is that there is one exception which I have used in my powerlifting career, and that was if you are still developing new flexibility. So back when I was trying to improve my squat form, so when I first started training, I had a very low bar, wide stance kind of squat, which was fine for power, but it meant that getting a white light in competition was kind of very, here and there. It was very touch and go. So occasionally I would get reds, and so I thought, I've got to fix this. I've got to be able to get deeper. I couldn't actually get deeper in the wide stance position, so I had to switch to more of a moderate stance, high bar style squat. That for my leverages, that was how I was able to consistently get depth. So what that meant was stretching out my ankles, stretching out my quads. So for that, for the period of probably 1 or 2 years, I stretched all the time. So I was doing a lot of stretching outside of the gym, and then I was stretching prior to the session, because at that point, when I was developing new flexibility to actually squat well, I had to stretch. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to get into the positions which enabled me to squat correctly during the course of the session. And if I wasn't able to do that, I was just inviting injury. So there is one potential application before training, and that is if you are developing new flexibility. Say, for example, a common one is a squat. And in that case, I always generally went with dynamic stretching. So I did a lot of dynamic stretching. Occasionally, I would do static stretching as well. So dynamic stretching is more active stretches, so where you're stretching quickly into the position and then pulling out again. I would also do static stretching, where I would just hold the position for a while. Whatever I needed to do to be able to get into those deep squat positions, I did. Did it for a period of a couple of years until my squat was fixed. So that is the one exception before training, and it might have some application for you guys who are still learning how to squat and want to squat deeper perhaps. All right, next thing is after training. So this is generally the preferred time to do things. This is what most of you all would have heard as the time to actually stretch. So in general, I'd say do static stretching like this. Get into the stretch you want to stretch, you want to hold. Hold it for between 30 to 60 seconds in a position which is not an extreme stretch. Like, it's got to be enough that you feel it, but it doesn't want to be so painful that it's just like, oh, I can't hold this. You've got to be able to hold it for a while without risk of tearing yourself, right? So hold it in a moderately stretched position for 30 to 60 seconds. Now, what should happen in those 30 to 60 seconds is the stretch should ease off a little bit. It's sufficient time for your body to just like, relax a little bit and allow the muscles to just stretch out and just ease off. Then after the 30 to 60 seconds is over, if you can, ease into the stretch a little bit more, and then hold that for a further 30 to 60 seconds and then release. That's generally how I encourage people to stretch. 30 seconds in a moderate stretch, nothing extreme. Then if you can, stretch a little bit more and then hold that for a further 30 to 60 seconds and then release, and then go on to your next stretch. Or let the area loosen up a little bit and stretch that area again, either way. Now, the next thing is during training. Yeah, this is it. Like, I don't stretch anymore. I did all my stretching about 12 years ago now. Once that flexibility is built, all I do now, if you guys see me lifting on my Instagram channel, my Instagram account, all of my lifting is done through a full range of motion. That maintains flexibility exceptionally well. If I'm training chest, it'll be through a full range of motion. If I'm doing legs, it'll be through a full range of motion. Nowadays, I can go right into a back squat with no warm-up, perfect depth, everything, because every time I train my quads, my legs, I train through a full range of motion. So a full range of motion will maintain your flexibility. You could argue it's actually the best time to maintain your flexibility by ensuring you're lifting through a full range of motion, because you're doing that with weight, and it also serves a dual purpose because you're getting your training in. So it's the best use of your time. And I found over the course of, as I say, 12 to 13 years, that has maintained my flexibility absolutely perfectly. So full range of motion lifting that's another reason why it's so useful. And I will just make a point here and say full, not excessive. So yeah, full range of motion, you don't have to go crazy about it. Like, you don't want to hyperextend anything, but just a reasonable full range of motion is absolutely fine. Now, one last mention here on a potential use for hypertrophy, which is DC dog crap style of stretching. It might have some application, and I mention it because no doubt somebody will mention that they've had some experience with it, and that is actually using the weight to literally hold and stretch your muscles for a while. I've not had a great deal of experience with it myself, so I'll only mention it in passing. I don't want to speak on anything that I don't have direct experience of. So I'll just say this, that has some potential application just because of the sheer number of people that it has, they've said it worked on over the years. It goes from dog crap way back before to sort of John Perillo days in the 80s, if some of you guys will remember that. So yeah, not a new concept, but certainly it's one with potential application. So in summary, I believe the best time to stretch is more than likely while you're training. So that is just making sure you're lifting with a full range of motion. But stretching before your training does have some niche application, and it was highly useful for me developing my flexibility back in the early days when I was especially trying to change my squat form to something which more consistently got me the white lights from the judges. All right, folks, hopefully you find that useful. And again, if you would like to work with me on any of your physique and strength goals, there is a link in the description. I would love to hear from you. I'll speak to you guys soon.